Hello everybody, I'm Jackie Smurden and today's video is about painting a watercolour with two colours, ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, two of my favourite colours, which when used together can create a very nice picture and also make some beautiful greys. And greys, although it sounds a strange thing to put into a painting if you're learning, grey is very useful for showcasing your brighter colours. And so I'll also put a link in the description back to one of my videos about colour mixing, and hopefully, and maybe I can even pop it on this bit here. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you get on okay. If you'd like to like and subscribe and comment, that would be fabulous. Let's get into it. So we're going to today going to be painting on something new that I've just picked up. Seawhite of Brighton recycled watercolour paper, and this one has got 25% reclaimed cotton. Now I don't know if you can see this, it says it is a 300 GSM not finish. Now that's again typical British thing. It's not, that means it's not hot pressed, which means it's cold pressed. It's not very obvious if you aren't in the UK. It's a cold pressed paper. It's a nice mid-range paper, and this one's come in a block, which for those of you who don't know means that the sides, I've taken the top off so I can get in, but the sides are gummed together all the way around, so when you throw water at it, you're probably not going to see that, but it's a shiny gum on there. When you throw any water at this, it is not going to buckle and go all over the place. So I thought we'd give this a little try, see what it looks like. So here's my watercolour block, and in order to get the effects I would like, I'm going to do wet in wet. But I'm just going to do the top part of this picture wet into wet. So I'm just using clean water. I'm imagining some sort of horizon here. I haven't drawn it in because it's just a gentle valley. I can throw water on this very happily because this is a block, so the paper is held down all the way around, which is really, really useful if you love water when you're painting your watercolours. If you're not so bothered about water, it doesn't really matter so much. Just going to bring that side down a little bit. There we go. So that's really sopping wet now. Puddles of water for lots of pigment. So just let that settle till the sheen goes off, and then I'm going to throw these puddles of paints that I've made up on here and let them mix on the page. I probably won't let them come down the bottom unless I accidentally have a lovely happy accident, because once this is dry I can then finish off with some dry brush technique and wet on dry on the front to bring the foreground in towards you. So this is settling in now. This is a cotton paper, so I'll come back to it in a minute when it's had a chance to let the shine go off and go more to a sheen. So that's taking way longer to settle into a soft sheen, and that's because I forgot it has cotton in it, and cotton performs very differently to the cellulose based papers, which can dry out a lot quicker. That's why people like cotton, because it will enable them to keep working for a lot longer whilst they're letting their colours mix. The top area there is just slightly dried out. One thing I forgot to show you, another option which you may be interested in depending on where you live, is what could be laying around anywhere really if you're near the sea. These actually make lovely palettes, and I have seen artists who only use shells for different colours, a bit like the egg holder idea, is that they have different shells, smaller than this one, I have to say, the person that I was watching, but depends how big you paint. You might love a huge shell like this and have a nice puddle of paint sat inside a shell, which is then you just leave it. Don't forget, when your paints dry out, it's fine. You just wake them up the next time you want to paint. But a lovely shell with that iridescent finish on the inside, especially some of the beautiful shells you get miles away from me, with the blues and the greens. I saw one in New Zealand once, absolutely beautiful. So if you live in a place that has beautiful shells, why not collect the ones off the beach, obviously without any living creatures in them, and use them for your watercolour palettes. Right, so now I'm going to do, well, look at this. Let's just do, you sometimes see online a watercolour pour. There's one way of doing it, isn't there? I'm just going to run some colours randomly. I'm not really thinking about where I put these colours. I just know that I need the colours on there. So I'll pop that one down, and I'm going to pick up my blue. So I haven't mixed on the palette, I'm mixing on the paper. And I'm going to try and leave some light areas, but I'm not overthinking this. I'm just dipping into all those beautiful palettes I've got. I've got so many of them. I've got to use some of them. Don't worry, this will all get used because I just love this combination of colours. See how wet it is still down here? So if you can drop that into where it's red already, you start to get a grey. Now this could be interesting because this paper is still really quite wet. I could leave it flat, but I'm experimenting with you, so let's see what happens if I do a gentle tilt. You might have to just catch some of these rather large runs. The trick is to just tilt the paper, the pad, can tickle it if you like. Well, I've got a wobbly shell there. Tickle it if you don't like. I don't really want white on the edge there because it's going to draw my eye. You can maybe go back the other way. Let's tuck it around that way. And I'm just letting the paint merge on the paper. So I'm getting some greys, which is actually what I really like. So greys on a painting, if you get grey, because you've mixed your own grey, nothing wrong with tube grey, but mix your own greys, you are going to have a foil for your beautiful bright colours because you have that neutral colour on there as well. If all your colours are bright and vibrant straight out the tube, you lose that ability to have a softness to your pictures. Now this paper has got a can you see it? It's like there's like a bit of a patterning on that cold pressed surface that I'm not sure is working brilliantly with this sky effect, but it might be. I think it would work brilliantly as a brick effect or some other textured surface so you're trying to paint. It's nice. So the trick is with that is to absolutely leave that alone whilst it dries. And even though this is on a block, I can still see it's buckled up. But hopefully as it dries it should flatten, and that won't be a problem anymore until I come to take it off, because taking them off is always a bit of a gamble, because they're never that easy to take off. Don't know if you've tried the same as me. Anyway, you're now seeing my beautiful burnt sienna and ultramarine blue colour palette that does give you some amazing effects. Yes, I could have put more blue on the top. In fact, let's throw some more blue on the top because we can still do that. As it starts to dry, you don't want to be putting really wet paint in. So I'm picking some of this off of that part of the palette that's got the original paint in. You can drop it in some areas. Then it will move, but it won't push the paint away into blooms, etc. Although I've got no problems with blooms, cauliflowers, runbacks, whatever you want to call them, I don't mind. Now I'm going to take this other palette. Now I'm going to mix my own grey. Oh, look at that. So it's a grey, it's gone bluey grey. So how do I change that? you add some of the burnt sienna back in. If you go back to the colour mixing video I did, you can just keep moving it. So now it's quite a neutral grey now. I like that. Might save that for later. So let's have another go. Pick up some red. Burnt sienna is a red. And get that going. And then pick up some blue. Let's pop that in over here. Try and keep your brush clean in between. So now I've definitely got more of a warm grey. You can see it's still a grey, it's neutral, but it's not as cool as that one. So I've got a variance there. Is that even a word? Then we'll do the same once more. So I pick up, trying to keep my brushes clean if I can, so I don't muddle all my colours up. I'm going to have to paint a lot of pictures with these colours now, because I've done this demo, because I've got paint everywhere. Are you like me? Do you worry about wasting paint? Because I still can't stop myself from worrying about it. Isn't it silly? You shouldn't worry about these things. You should just enjoy it. Now, you might have noticed me there putting a dirty brush into that blue, so I'm just going to haul it out now, because I've ruined the blue anyway. It's got a very, very reddy brown, which is nice in itself. That could be useful. And do you know what? I do like that, so I'm going to keep it, even though it's not what I intended to mix. Take the rest of it out there. There we go. Keep going. And then rinse my brush off, pick up my blue, mix that one in. It's nice and dark. It could be darker. All you do is have less water in it. So now that one has gone more of a bluey grey. So this one is going towards the blue. This one is going towards the red. This is much redder and this is much bluer. There we go. Get the idea. So that's one way of mixing on an open palette, is you get the ability to mix in advance, if you like. So that blue is made from ultramarine blue, but you can see how it's much more muted than the original blue was. So I can then use that wherever I want. I could drop bits into here, which it looks like I accidentally have already. Never mind. Or I could do a completely different painting with those. So lots of ways to use them. Right, this has got to dry now. So have my cup of tea and I'll see you on the other side. So this has now dried a little bit, but it's still damp. Still see a sheen on there. But I just remembered that I quite like an effect you can get whilst this is damp. So I'm going to go to the greys I mixed over here, and I'm going to pick this bluey grey here. Just make sure I've got the right colour. This may not be thick enough, so just going to add some blue into it from that palette so it's thicker. Rinse out the brush, pick up some original burnt sienna, but not too much. Drag them together. This is why I like to see it's already improving, this palette, because I'm using it. See how much darker and richer that is to this one, or this one. Just this is less, I can't see through this one so well. It's gone a bit brown, so squeeze off my water. I don't want too much. Pick up that colour. It's a little bit too watery, I think. Let's try it. Right, this is still continuing to dry. I've gone back to my bluey side of the grey now. So I'm not going to do any more. I'm just going to do what I want to do. So this is still damp. It's not wet. It's not sloshing. I can't really move it by tilting anymore. But if I use this brush loaded with slightly thicker paint, ooh, is it not thick enough? Let's just go with it. Oh, you can just enjoy me having these moments of fear. It's quite soft, So I've learnt from that I need more paint. I need less water and I need more paint. So a squidge of blue. If you find yourself in that situation, you can clean the palette, but what I tend to do is just go off to one side, drag some of that over, so you're using that. It's much thicker now. Squeeze off the water. We don't want the water so much now. That red is quite strong, so add a little bit. Whoa, way too strong. Red is always going to overpower your blue. Funny what you learn when you start doing it regularly. There we go. It's all practice. That's much thicker, even more than that one, which is even more than that one. If I go back along here, now what happens? It's a bit bluer. You can tweak it about a little bit if you want to. Whoops, a bit wet there. Might have a few slightly wet areas here, but that's fine. Let's go with it. So I have a slight tilt on this. What could we use for a slight tilt? We could use a shell. Here we go. Come over this side. You probably know what I'm trying to do already. You probably notice also with my videos I don't tend to edit and cut much out because I can't keep up with the fast people on YouTube. They talk fast, there's no gaps in the middle of their sentences, and if there are, they cut them out, and it is exhausting. I can't do it. So I'm very much old school, as if you were right here next to me painting along with me. Of course there's going to be gaps while I'm drying things, etc., but I hope you appreciate it, and I apologise for the length of some of my videos because they do seem to get away from me. Right, so I've no idea what that's done until I look at it really. Hopefully it's done what I hoped it would do. Let's try and have a look. So let's turn our paper around so our brains can work it out. Oh yes, there we go. So we have like a snowy hill maybe, and some trees and shrubby things coming over the horizon there. So now I have to let that dry absolutely completely. So I've done a little bit of sketching on here. I'm going to have a little tree in here and some various bits and pieces going on. Let's see if I can show you some of them. So if I start on the left hand side, I had a little happy accident here of a smudge of grey. So rather than losing that beautiful grey, I thought I'd just put a fence post over the top of it. So trying to think where the light would be coming from, just as a very rough idea. So I'm going to paint down this side of the fence post. It's not very strong, is it, guys? So you know, I just need to pick up something else there to strengthen that. While I'm doing that, I'll pop some into this one and then move into my slightly lighter paint over here, and then even lighter still for these tiny little lines in the background. This is why I love round brushes. I can make the round brush do loads of things, tiny little marks like that without any problem at all. The nearer excuse me, the nearer the brush the marks come to the foreground, the more it's a good idea to put warm colour in. And we've already got it on this painting, burnt sienna, so I wouldn't put this in the background so much on these fence posts because they're going to be a long way in the background, but I might just pop a little bit of that into there like so, and then you squeeze out your brush. You can just damp brush down the side. It should hopefully pull that colour across to the other side of the post, so it gives the impression of a light side. I'm going to worry about those on that end. These are a bit further away. Let's drop a bit of grey into this one, make it slightly greyer. Just soften those edges like so. How would you do the fence rails or whatever you want them to be? Well, simply as possible is my advice. So go for a really pale grey that you mixed up earlier and literally just hint at lines in the distance. Do not paint every fence line. I'm sort of probably going for a combination of wobbly wires, or who knows. They're not really proper fences, are they? So might put 2 on that one. These are dried really quick because I'm painting wet onto dry now. As I come nearer, I'm going to pick up a lot thicker, darker paint. That's whizzed off into there, which I like, so I'm not going to fiddle with that. And that's gone into that, which I like. And then don't forget it's coming off the page. So you could add a little bit more dark on this side, but it's quite a way away. Picking up my warmer, thicker grey from over here, I'm going to pop in some suggestions of foliage, grass, whatever it might be. We don't know, do we? Is anybody going to check our painting and say, oh my goodness, you've got that grass blade wrong? Well, if they do, then you need to go somewhere else to paint. There we go, that's quite nice, liking that. Now with this rigger liner brush, you can use that to add more colour onto one side of these posts if you like, whilst it's still damp. If you do it once it's dry, you will get a hard line. So another thing to bear in mind is there would be a shadow there, or would there? Is it just a glowing sky? That's up to you. You can put shadows in on the posts if you like. I would suggest you do that a little bit later when they're drier. So I'm going to go into this tree in the background here now. I've gently sketched him in. He's a bit further back, so I might put a little bit of the warm colour in. But I'm just going to, yeah, I'm just literally using a tiny brush for this. I don't really shouldn't really do that, should I? I should use a bigger brush. But do what you like. So here we go. All I'm going to do is let this brush go for a walk up the page, and you just let it wiggle. If it splits off and goes somewhere you don't want, that's great, because this is going to look more like a tree. Now we're in the heart of Norfolk here in the UK, and a lot of our trees in winter have got ivy in here, so you don't actually really see the trunk. You just see this massive stuff that's in the middle here. So I'm going to try and capture that. No, I haven't got a reference photo because no, I'm not trying to paint a tree picture. I'm just showing you what you can do when you've got colour all over your palettes. Remember, this is all so far 2 colours. We haven't added anything else in, have we? If you're painting along and you're getting a similar effect, well done. And I'm sure you're doing really well. If you haven't had a go yet, don't be afraid to have a go with 2 colours. See if you can mix up some of those beautiful greys. I quite like that tree now. If I was being super careful, I could mask off with a really messy piece of rag and just do a little bit of splatter there. Shall we just try that? It's quite scary, this bit, because you don't want to splatter all over the snow or whatever it is. There we go, that's just a little hint of some foliage there. And the tree is breaking the horizon line, which makes for a more interesting painting rather than just a horizon that's flat and nothing over it. So the trees in the background have helped to break it up, and this one is now doing the same thing. If I could pick up some direct thick blue paint and just smudge that in there, let the water take it where it wants, and then just not forgetting that this is a tree sitting in the ground. Got to look like it's in the ground. It's no good me painting a tree that's floating. So in order to help that, I like what's going on here. In order to help it sit in the ground, I'm going to take a smudgy brush and just dance that around here, leaving some spaces, suggesting that there's foliage here, There's some scrub maybe. It's going past the tree, behind the tree. It's going a little bit warmer as it comes closer with some more burnt sienna in the colours, but I'm also letting some of that blue in, help that mix in. Like so. Whoops, went up my fence post. Never mind, doesn't matter. So as you can see, I'm not really painting things, I'm just painting stuff. Is that the same thing? There we go. So drop a bit of warm in there, drop a little bit of real cool in there in places. So you get the idea, is this stuff is just down the side coming towards us here. We don't know what it is, we don't care. But the tree is now sitting on some sort of bank. We could emphasise that a bit more with some sort of little tufts of grass, sort of maybe popping out here and there. They're going to be a little bit bigger as they come down. I mean, this isn't to scale, is it? I mean, that grass is way too big for that huge tree thing behind it. So get rid of him. But you can suggest it, you get the idea. Just wiggle your brush around. Make sure that this side has got some of the similar colours, so there's not quite as much blue over this side. So I'm going to just rectify that so it fits with that side. Then pale bluey grey, which has just got more water in it, to suggest there's something coming over that hill, which is going to be like a trodden path. As it comes nearer, it gets a little bit bigger and a bit warmer, and a bit bigger and a bit warmer still, until we can go quite warm. When you see through snow in the mud, there's some colours there, isn't there? There we go. This didn't quite work. Let's make that into a bit of a mass. Put some more grey on. Right, switch up to a bigger brush, Jackie, because you are fiddling with the small brush, and just do some sweeping washes. Let that merge go on the paper. Maybe have some here. This could be like some ruts in there, which maybe people or vehicles have created. And potentially you could have some shadows, but I'm not really convinced about the shadows on this one. Let me just put a hint of them on. If you really thought about it too much, it wouldn't work. But if I've done a shadow there, I probably need to do a shadow for the tree, which is going to be just something like this. Put a little bit of blue in because it's a little bit too grey. And then up the other side. Of course the tree would spread out, wouldn't it? It's a strange shadow. There you go. Ta-da! It goes off into there. Link those shapes together. This area over here is quite dull because it's just white, so I'm going to mix a little bit of that into there and just do, let's see if I can get it to work, a little dry brush across the hill. So this paper's good at dry brush. Yeah, nice effect there. Maybe some going up here as well. There you go, just a bit of suggestion of something or other is going on there. Not quite sure what. There we go, I'm done. I'm going to stop right there. So we've got a nice winter scene. I could do more to that. Of course I could. I could fill it with detail. I could put birds in the sky. But there we go, from having a look at our palettes, and now that's how every palette should look: messy. If your palettes are clean, you're not doing it right. I know, I'm joking, of course you are. But yes, that's what your palettes should be full of, paint. And then when you end up with loose paint because you finish something somewhere else, on a workshop or on an art club or whatever it is, when you come home, just get yourself something interesting to paint on. And I'm still not 100% sure about the recycled cotton paper, but it's my first ever use of it. When this is dried, I might go in and put some pen marks, etc. on, because I quite like doing that. But there is absolutely no way that I can tell you what you'd like to do with your picture. Try the wet in wet technique for the sky, and then try the wet on dry in the foreground to finish it off. But when you do that, don't change the colours. Just see how you get on using the same colours, just thicker. So hopefully you got on okay, and the finished painting still on the block here, which I shall take off at some point. It's just a bit of fun, isn't it? And a very simple picture that came out of my head. Hopefully you've done one either very similar or completely your own, which would be amazing. But it's well worth having a go, picking two colours. If you're not sure which colours to pick, try and pick something from the colour wheel that has a complement of some sort. So you can get the greys where the colours grey down together, muting them so that you have a nice showcase for maybe the cleaner, brighter colours elsewhere in your painting. So it's been lovely having you here today. Thanks for watching, and you're very welcome to come and view my channel anytime you like, ask any questions. There's no such thing as a silly question on this channel, so do ask. And take care everybody. Happy painting!